Thanks so much, and apologies, I lost my voice last night, so I'm going to try my best. I wanted to start with the story of founding Legl, which we did 4.5 years ago. And because the moderator mentioned that compliance is boring, but stories can be interesting. Stormy Daniels and Stephen Hawking, two giants of our time, on the face of it. Not speaking to a Miami audience, I don't know what the reaction is going to be. On the face of it, they don't have too much in common. But in fact, both of them used the platform that I founded as my first legal tech startup, CrowdJustice, to access legal services. And I don't have a McKinsey background, but I used to be a lawyer. I was at Linklaters and the UN. And then about 10 years ago, I founded my first legal tech startup, CrowdJustice, with a view to increase access to legal services through crowdfunding legal cases. And funds raised through the platform went directly to lawyers' client trust accounts, and we automated compliance on funds so that lawyers could receive them directly. And what I started to see was that in a lot of instances, in fact, the absolute vast majority, that was the only way that law firms were receiving funds digitally and compliantly. So I started to dig into that and look at it from the point of view of if the problem is how do you deliver amazing legal services, what if instead of looking at it from the point of view of consumers who are trying to access legal services, looking at it from the point of view of law firms? And many of you in the audience are coming from the law firm industry, and many of you are not. But fundamentally, it's quite a hard operational business to run as a law firm. And so the more that we started digging into this, the more that I saw there were two pretty profound fundamental problems that impact both the client experience and the ability of law firms to run a profitable business. And one of those, and sometimes these are related, and there was a panel earlier today for those who weren't there, on actually like the AML risk in relation to cash collection and the increased fraud risk. Sometimes these problems are closely related and sometimes they're separate. But we set out to solve these two core fundamental problems. First, how as a law firm do you collect cash effectively, improve cash flow, reduce the risk of fraud in cash collection? And second, how do you collect and monitor client intelligence so that you reduce the risk of taking on bad clients and you improve the ability to understand your client base? So I think in the last 30 years of legal tech, the legal industry gets a bad rep for not being innovative, but in fact, I think that's probably often unfair. And certainly over the last 5 years, we've seen a ton of innovation into the delivery of sort of substantive legal services, but often client and law firm operations get left behind. And in fact, that has a material impact across a lot of different areas. One is on client experience itself. So the actual experience of engaging a law firm can be slow and time-consuming for clients as well as for law firms. And that also impacts risk. So from a law firm perspective, the risk of taking on the wrong client can have reputational issues. It can have regulatory issues depending on which jurisdictions you're operating in. It can be a true strategic concern, but also really heavy operational lift. And it also impacts on law firm profitability. So the time to value, getting clients in the door, starting billing, cash collection, the ability to understand the client risk and also the client commercial value. So legal takes the angle of actually really starting with the end client experience and working backwards from that to marry that with law firm processes, which can often be quite complex in order to manage both client risk, client onboarding, AML, ongoing risk monitoring, payment and cash collection. Legal enables firms to manage that client risk really holistically, gain a better picture of clients, and drive more profitability. One of the things we do, because we're automating a lot of complex internal firm workflows and external firm workflows, is that we're enabling firms to use that data to paint a better picture of their client base. But that has also real commercial value, whether that's enabling faster time to value for firms or better client experience so the clients are more likely to re-engage you, being able to collect cash faster and drive better profitability. Since pivoting from CrowdJustice 4.5 years ago, we've partnered with over 400 law firms. We've processed over $500 million in payment processing, and we've enabled law firms to paint a better picture of over 1 million of their end clients. Our mission is to enable law firms to have the tools to grow profitably and manage risk intelligently, and to focus on the substantive legal work that they want to do, that their clients want them to do, that in an increasingly competitive world, no matter who your client is, whether it's Stormy Daniels, whether it's Stephen Hawking, whether it's a corporate, being able to run client operations effectively, give clients an amazing experience, and run your internal firm operations profitably is a huge competitive advantage. So I'm Julia at legal.com. I would love to hear from you if it's a topic that's interesting. Hopefully I'll have had my voice back by then. And thank you very much for having me.